Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm Ben from Universal Audio, and we are here for yet another Luna office hour. Basically, what we're trying to do here is stream a bunch of knowledge and information straight from us, the people who've been working inside and creating Luna for the last couple of years, to all of you amazing people out there who are launching Luna and getting started with it today. Or if you're just curious and trying to see what it does and doesn't do, we're also going to be answering a lot of those types of questions. And luckily, I am not all completely I'm socially distanced, but I'm not isolated. I am also being joined by a whole panel of amazing people from Universal Audio. And so I've got, hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey,
Hey, Ben.
Ben.
What's up?
Hello.
So we've got people all over the world tuning in. We've got chat kind of running over here on the side. I know a bunch of you are kind of checking out the chat and trying to respond to people in real time. And if you've tuned in for the other office hour sessions so far, we've really focused a lot on how to get downloaded, how to get set up, how to start recording audio and MIDI, and just kind of getting those real basics. But we're definitely hearing you guys loud and clear that you'd love to kind of dive deeper and see and learn more about how Luna relates to console. I know there's a lot of technical questions, so we're gonna kind of take this session now, especially since we got all the technical experts among us, to kind of dive deeper into some of the technical aspects of it. So a little bit less music this time around, but hopefully really helpful and useful information for what you guys are looking to do. And I think actually a really good place to start, at least this is where I start whenever I start using a new application, is like I instantly want to learn the keyboard shortcuts. I've done this. I did this back in the day with Pro Tools, with Adobe stuff. Like I don't read the manual until I've read the keyboard shortcut manual.
For sure.
Right. So there is in Luna, if you're like me, you've already clicked on the help and there's keyboard shortcuts. There's a whole deep dive there, but what I thought would be good for us to do here on the stream would actually be to kind of highlight some of our favorites. The six of us have been using Luna for quite a while, so I know we've got a few favorite keyboard shortcuts. So Drew, I'll let you drive the screen. You've got the little prepared list, and you can kind of show people how these actually work in action, and then the rest of us will just kind of chime in and add our thoughts and commentary along with it.
Sounds great. Sounds great. I've got it. This response to, like you, Ben, this is kind of one of the first things that you want to do when you're learning something. You got to sort of know how to get around. So, and some of these have been touched on. Tom touched on some, Connor touched on some, but I just made a quick little list here. And I've got it so that hopefully you can see them behind that you can see them as I do this, so we can kind of look at them both. At the same time, people can sort of write them down. But yeah, like you said, the full list is in the help menu. But I figured I'd just start out over a couple, the one we've all seen before that we're all familiar with, that command equal sign to switch back and forth. Another one, some of the other ones for me are, of course, you have your basic scroll wheel and shift scrolling, which gets you up and down and side to side. But for zooming in, we have our R and T, pretty familiar commands that people are used. So that's going to get you around a lot.
So, with zooming, we just want to focus on this for a second, because this is probably the biggest thing for people to know navigation wise, right? So you're saying R and T, just with no modifiers. If you're on the timeline view, just hit R or T, and you're going to scroll in and out.
Yeah.
There's also there's 2 or 3 other ways to be scrolling in and out, right?
There is, yeah. So if you hold down Command left bracket or right bracket. Mm-hmm. That's another way to zoom in and out. The left bracket zooms you out, and the right bracket zooms you in.
Yeah.
I'll give you one that a lot of people actually don't know, which is, Drew, if you go up to the bar beat ruler and just go to whatever bar 85 right there or anywhere you like, and actually drag down on it, it'll actually.
Oh, what? Oh, so just click and
style.
Yeah, so what it'll do is it'll center the playhead right in the middle of the screen and start zooming you in at that location. So the screen will jump a little bit, but it's a really nice gestural way to just start saying, I know where I want to go, drag down on that, and you'll start zooming in on that point.
Nice. You can also do the very same thing in the timeline area. If you hold down the Option key and use your trackpad or scroll wheel, 2-finger swipe on the trackpad or scroll wheel, zooms in and out. That is my personal favorite.
Yeah, so Option.
Yeah, I use that one all the time.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm kind of used. For me, I'm kind of used to orange, and I'm always, for me, when I'm zoomed out. Which, by the way, another great one. Control Option Command down arrow is kind of, when if you're in at a really granular level, and all three models in that down arrow is boom, get you all the way out. I use multiple times a day.
Well, that one also works. That also works for the track heights too, right? So if you were zoomed in on a track a little bit higher, and then you go 1, 2, 3, and there you go. Command Option, Control down, it'll zoom you out completely.
Yep. Yeah. It's kind of like the big picture zoom out. So if you're way in here into something and you're zoomed in and you want to get out to everything, it's kind of a good get you back to that baseline. So I use those quite a lot.
Nice. Can you, Drew? Do you mind just your text pad? Do you mind just shifting that over to the right a little bit? To the right.
Oh, you go behind the gallery.
No, the other right.
Oh, to the right.
Yep. The actual.
We can't see the gallery.
The right to the right. All the way to the right.
Oh.
Cover up console. There you go. Perfect. And now I'll move our faces a little bit. Perfect. Cool. All right.
Cool. So
that's all those. It's a bunch of zoom. So that's 10 different ways to zoom. No, it's like 4 or 5 different ways to zoom. But that's really cool. And they're all. If you guys are used to using other workstations, a bunch of those are going to feel very familiar to you already, which is kind of the idea.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing is the track height. We kind of alluded to it before, but you've got the control and up and down arrows will do the selected channels. So if you have multiple channels selected, they'll go up and they'll go up relative to each other. If you add option to that, that'll do everything and it'll stay relative. I do this little until you collapse it all and then it comes back out the same. I do that quite a lot where I'll collapse. That's a kind of a little way of resetting them in addition to the other one that we had.
So what's that? That's it again. You're doing option. So option up and down, or sorry, control option up and down changes all the track heights, right? And then and control up and down.
Control does whatever one is selected.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then
control up and down does whichever one is selected. If you add option to it, then it does to all.
Nice.
So there's another one in the same vein. If you right to like where you see the kick track, there's a little icon there right above the kick track, and you click that. And it gives you a quick way to set all of the tracks to one height.
Nice.
It's a nice way to kind of get started if you don't know the key command.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. I use that one loads just as a way of coming back.
Mm-hmm. Yep, just kind of normalize everything.
Yeah.
Nice.
Not actually normalizing the audio, just for clarity's sake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if we want to dig in more, speaking of this, the size of the audio, if we have those, if we add, command option brackets is our waveforms, right? So if you're working with low level material and you want to kind of blow those waveforms up a little bit, you can do that. So that's option command brackets. And if you add control in that and do the left bracket, that's kind of the reset. So if you've gotten yourself all blown up here and you're not quite sure what you want to do,
Drew, your tracks are clipping really bad. Oh no, they're not.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a good way to get your waveforms. If you need to see something, bigger, you can blow them up like that. And then reset them back.
What's the key command for that one again?
The reset is all the 3 modifiers and the left bracket.
Okay.
So you've got the option command brackets are going up and down, and then if you add in control and do the left one, then you've got the kind of the reset there.
Nice. And Connor, is there a gesture way to do that as well?
I've been so focused on this chat that you're going to have to ask the question one more time.
For zooming in and out audio waveforms, so to make the waveforms larger or smaller, is there a gesture key command that people can use?
Just the key commands that Drew has described so far, no mouse gesture yet.
Gotcha.
Cool.
It's one of those things.
And speaking of that,
Oh, sorry, Drew. Yeah, I was just saying, it's good to be mindful.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's good to be mindful when you're in this state where you're going through and using the exploding of the waveforms for, like you said, low level material, and not to get sort of confused between that and clip gain, which is another thing that can make the waveform appear louder or quieter.
It'll also sound sound louder or quieter, point. Not just appear.
In this case, this is an actual change to the volume. So just something to be aware of that.
Yeah.
When Drew is showing you this, we're not actually making the audio super loud. We're just giving you this better visual indication.
It was great too.
We can see that.
it's so obvious once you do the clip gain. Like I love how in the clip bar it shows you very obviously like, cool, you've got this one is turned up, 6 dB or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you ever get yourself into trouble, you can just, you can option click resets that clip gain to default. So
that's a good one to remember. Option click on something.
Yeah. Set to default.
Great.
Cool. So in keeping along with this, we've got, one of the things that I know I tend to use quite a lot are the P and then the colon semicolon key. So this is something that's super handy when you're making selections and you either want to move the selection. So P moves you up, colon semicolon moves you down. And then if you add shift to that, that allows you to select multiple ones. Of course, if you want to select everybody, we have an all tracks ruler up here at the top where Lev pointed us out to earlier. That's another good handy one, especially if you're doing big chunky arrangement type stuff. That one allows you to do that stuff really quickly.
And so to do that select all thing you just did. So that's the ruler that's below the markers, correct? Or is it all of those rulers?
It's labeled. Yeah, it's the track ruler, the all tracks ruler.
Nice.
Is kind of a global ruler. So if I'm making a selection down here, it's going to be based on the tracks, and I can move up and down to do that. But if I want to do everybody, I can just do it in the all tracks ruler, and it will do everything, including the rulers. So it's truly all tracks and rulers there.
That's really cool. Yeah, and the P and semicolon thing, that's a very familiar kind of navigating up and down, but I've always found that really helpful too for like doing comping and stuff like that.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think there's another way to do that too if we want to play some jazz here. If Drew, if you open up the tracks browser, under the view menu there.
Yep.
So go ahead and make another selection on the track you're already on, like you just showed us. And then if you go to the tracks browser and just select a track there, that will move the selection.
Ooh.
Nice.
But here's the hot tip. If you put your cursor over there like you just did, like now technically the keyboard focus is on the browser, not on the timeline. Go ahead and use the up-down arrow.
There we go.
Now you're moving this with just the more, sort of maybe intuitive up-down arrow thing.
Yeah, sure.
Like you said, Ben, the P and the semicolon is sort of a familiarity feature from how it works in some other workstations. But if you use this tracks browser, you kind of get maybe the more straightforward, just up-down navigation. And even if you're using the tracks browser, kind of like you were also showing, Drew, if you shift select in the tracks browser across a couple of tracks, you'll extend that selection to multiple tracks. So there you go. I think we're a little out of view there. There you go. So that's another way to do it. There's kind of like this little universe view on the left with the tracks browser, and then there's the very literal timeline view like you were editing with.
Nice.
Yeah, I use those quite a lot. As far as some editing stuff that you might be familiar with, getting back to the single button commands, if you're used to using D, F, and G for fading, we have that D is your fade in, and G is your fade out, and then F, of course, for crossfades, is a shortcut for that. So those are all kind of familiar commands that you might be doing. Nice. We also have our tab to transient, something that we're used to, and shift tab to go forward, option shift tab to go backwards. This is great for making selections, and then adding to that. So if you're working with things that are non-gridded audio and you're using drum transients to grab things, these can be nice ways of getting really good. And of course, if you need to adjust, the familiar shift clicking to refine your selections in that way.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
And we've seen it earlier, but the E key to get into that really zoomed in view, and that's a toggle that you can get in and out of, and you'll return to the previous state. So
that's the one that when Connor and I were hanging out doing the tech talk, like when we were just in a different session, not the one that you guys saw on camera, but he was just kind of selecting, hitting, select E, boom, there it was. All right, cool. E, zoom back out. Like it was this really intuitive kind of in and out sort of workflow with the E key that just brought whatever he needed to see at any moment in time into focus. So on a lot of examples we've seen so far, we've kind of shown, great, select, one clip on one track and you hit E and you get a full screen, but that also works if you select a few things, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to
works
show
out well?
Yeah, can you show, just select like three,
Oh, right. Yeah, sure. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just select like a random amount there. Boom.
Yeah.
E brings you into whatever it is that you selected is now going to be brought into focus.
If I'm in guitar mode here, I can just be like, all right, I'm in guitar mode, and here's my guitars, and and then get back out of that.
There's
I
a
was
couple,
just
oh, sorry,
go ahead,
Drew.
Lev. Yeah, no, go ahead. I was going to move on to something else, but
well, I think, in that same vein, like make a selection for me and hit the E key, and I'll show you how these things work together. So maybe now hit the T key to start zooming in. Okay, so now we're in this place where you blew it up and then you zoomed into the beginning.
Right.
Now you can't see stuff. So hit the right arrow.
Yeah, right.
And this will go between the top and the tail. Basically,
right.
you're going. And maybe it's a little bit more useful if we had selected some audio in the beginning. There you go. But same thing. The left and right arrows are going to give you this way to sort of still zoom in, but not like have to like hit the E again and come back out and in. You can just sort of navigate around at sort of the most intuitive places of your selection.
Yeah,
that's right. Key again, you'll be right back out. There you go.
Yeah, super handy.
Wow, the left and right arrow thing. I didn't know that one. That's going to come in way handy.
Works with
yeah. And speaking of those arrows, you can grab them on the fly too. So if I'm rolling, and I want to hit the down arrow, and then hit the up arrow, it will make that selection for me, which is handy. So that and then you can capture that edit selection and then toggle back and forth like Lev was saying before. One of the other ones that I wanted to touch on was a good one for navigating was the markers, right? You'll notice I've got some markers done in this one. We got our control option, and it's a L and the quote, I guess you'd call that, or apostrophe, sorry, which is getting us through our markers, right? So that's a really good one for navigating those markers, because currently we don't have the key commands for navigating markers. So these directly, and these get you there, which is a really fast way of, once you've got the song marked out, to be able to get around on those.
Nice. And how do you create? Is there a shortcut for creating markers?
Yeah, the enter key. Yeah, so the enter key allows you to bring up the marker. You can do the color, you can do the name, and you can even do some comments, and that makes that. And then just to finish up that one, you can make selections. So if I add shift to this, as I add these markers, so if your markers are really super tight, you can make really good musical based selections, based on with the keyboard for those bigger, more chunky song type edits that you're going to be doing.
Nice. And so the enter key, that's just for everyone that's on a laptop. That's the enter key over on the number pad. Is there a laptop compatible key command for making markers?
Is that a function something, right, Connor?
Yes. So the numeric keypad return key, this is just a Mac OS and Apple laptop thing. If you hold the function key in the bottom left corner of your, it's usually where it is, and then press the return key, it will use the numeric keypad enter key and drop a marker.
Nice.
Yeah, that's super handy for when you're on the go.
Can you use that same trick to like turn on the metronome or start recording like you normally would with 7 and 3 if you're on a MacBook or something like that?
I actually don't know. That's a good question.
I don't know. That's a good one to good one to try in the field.
You can try that. Do you have the function key on your keyboard there, Drew? We could real time it. Not on that one.
No, I don't think I do on this one. Yeah, sorry.
I remember the old the PowerBooks used to actually they would print the number pad things onto the keys. It was like this weird cascaded thing. But I don't know if they've kept that functionality up or not.
Doesn't look like it's there.
Yeah. Another one, just running down my list, is something I use quite a lot is the dash underscore key, right? That's a biggie. When you're mixing and you're toggling between waveform and edit. If you add option to that, it'll do to all or create a toggle between all. In this case.
And so that by default, right, we're toggling between. You can see over on the right hand side, you're going between clips and volume automation.
Yeah.
But so say you wanted to automate something besides volume, I believe it toggles back and forth between whatever you're editing and the clip, right? Nope, it goes back to volume.
Yeah, it goes back to volume. Yeah,
it goes back to volume. But you're seeing something kind of cool though. I mean, we're in this browser view, and unlike a regular drop menu where it's maybe got side arrows and things that are kind of non-static, this is a static browser. So it's easy enough for Drew to just be clicking anywhere on this list to be able to go through different types of automation. Another thing that's cool is if Drew had any automation on here, like if you drew in something, if Drew drew in something artificial, sorry, I couldn't help myself. You'll see it turns orange over here on the list. So you've got this, indication that there's some automation on this potentially long list.
Yeah.
But I'll give you the other key command, and you probably had this in your list, Drew, which is Control Command left right arrow will actually toggle
right. Yeah, right.
through all of this. So you can see on the list on the side now, it's kind of going through these things. And so that's another way for us to quickly move about. Even with this view closed on the left, it would still be cycling you through things, which is really cool.
Yeah,
nice.
That's a good one.
That's awesome.
Hope everybody at home is taking notes on all of this.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of, hopefully you can read them up on the screen. That's good enough. There, it wasn't everything, one I learned from Connor, that Option Command L get you, toggling that, Option Command L toggling your manage page. That was one I caught in one of his briefings that was super handy to get back into there. If you're in the midst of any sort of downloading or updating, you can kind of jump back and forth. The selection grouping, that's something I've seen a lot online as well. People wondering about, what the grouping situation is here. This is pretty subtle, but if I make a selection in the mix window, you'll see that these channels have this little blue hue around them, and Command G toggles that on and off. I don't know if that's coming through, how well that's coming through, but and then alternately you can do it up here in the mixing. It's called selection grouping, and basically it's a mode that allows you to adjust whatever due to whatever is selected. So if I want to add in these guys, or if I just want to, I could do to all as well. Select everybody with option and then trim my whole mix or something like that. Any of those sort of workflows.
Yeah, and the selection grouping works on so many fronts, right? It's both in the mixer view, it's when you're editing on the timeline, parameter, inserting plugins, tape machines, tape set it. I guess is it almost easier to say what isn't covered by selection grouping?
Yeah, I guess it would be. It's pretty much everything. I think it's currently not warp markers and maybe not volume automation, but that'll, I'm sure that'll.
Yeah, the summary is really that it's about mixing features primarily. So the Command G toggle for selection grouping on off is really the way to clutch in and out of a grouped feature for the selected tracks. The editing functions are always enabled when the range is around them, but there are indeed things that don't have grouped editing support yet, like warp editing and things like that.
Right.
The other stuff that's obvious is it doesn't support like two plugins on different tracks of the same type. So
right, sure.
Like Connor said, it's really about the mixer here and what you're seeing for the most part, and that all works really well. So yeah, if you just wanted to select those tracks and mute, really easy to do.
Yep.
Yeah, or if I'm making cue adjustments here, I can adjust all of my cues there, which is super handy.
Well, I also love too how it handles panning. So with all these guitar tracks that you have selected right now, like if you start moving their pans, it doesn't just snap them all together; they move relative to each other.
Yeah, yep, it's beautiful.
Super cool.
Yeah, while we're here, we could take a quick look at copying and pasting. In the mixer, we've got those, Command C gets you into this copy mode where you can grab something, and once I have it, I can swipe it to put it onto others. Super handy, of course, undoable.
Oh, this is a new one for me too. So wait, so you're in mixer view, you hit Command C, and then now we're in copy. Oh,
yeah,
that's rad.
Yeah, now I got I have the familiar crosshairs if you're used to console having these, and I can grab something. You'll notice, by the way, just there it timed out. So if it's a mode you enter, and if you let it sit long enough, you'll time out. But it's super handy to, I've got this great reverb, I can, copy it. Now it's in a little buffer, swipe across these three and it's over there. And when they're selected, I can then grab them, escape, get you out if you want. And then selection grouping gets those guys going. And again, all of this undoable, just go right back where I was. So that's a super handy copy paste. When I first saw this, I didn't use it much in console. And I remember when I first discovered this in Luna months ago, I was just like, that's like,
oh yeah, that's a huge one.
Genius. Yeah, super smart way of handling that.
Well, especially for being able to copy sends, be able to copy inserts, all cue settings.
And then swipe. Yeah, and then just swipe across. That's super, instead of drag, option drag, option drag, option drag, option drag, this is just a swipe and I'm on 10 tracks if I wanted. Super cool.
I think there's a lot of gestural things in Luna. Another one of the swipe examples is if you wanted to just swipe across the mute buttons on the fader section. And it just gives you that ability to, it's sort of just, let's see if you get it right. There you go.
Hey, look at that.
There you go.
Awesome.
But you can do the same thing with solos. You saw the same thing with the copy paste gestures. There's a lot of that kind of stuff that you can do. And it's all very just kind of intuitive. And obviously you've got a solo button right next to it, but it just sort of skips the solo, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Smart.
Cool.
Yeah. So Tom, do you have something? I think I might have covered my list.
We can chuck a couple in. I mean, I actually use that that gestural swipe to do remove plugins quite a lot. Just when you want to flatten a session, you know, like someone sends you something and you just want to clean up. It's so good to just kind of go whoosh, done.
Yeah, right.
Start from afresh.
Yeah, I don't want to do that to.
Well, you can do it. You can always get your session back.
That's true. Yeah, right.
That's the cool. You can undo it as well. So, or even the power down's great. So you can just swipe across a load of inserts on your drums and then just kind of A/B really quickly.
Yeah,
it's super cool. The other one is holding down Option to do the scroll, gestural scroll over a parameter like faders.
Oh, right, sure. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
That's so you hold down Option and use the scroll wheel. If you don't hold down Option, it's just going to scroll the entire pane up and down.
Yeah, right. So that's without it. There's without it, and then with it. And I have my USB. I have my scrolling accelerated, which is probably making that be a little bit more coarse than maybe it might be otherwise.
That's cool. You can go from 0 aux to maximum aux.
Well, one of the shortcuts that Connor showed us yesterday was the Shift W for being able to toggle. You know, so say you're building up a signal chain, or you're in the middle of a mix and you've got like 5 or 6 kind of plugin windows all happening at once, and you're like, oh crap, I need to just like. Yep. Shift W just automatically hides all the plugin windows and lets you get back into the app.
Yeah, that's a great. I forgot. I saw that in one of his early videos, internal videos, and was like, that's awesome. And then I forgot about it, and then I remembered it when he showed us again yesterday.
Yeah, and another nice thing is there's not separate key commands for closing plugin windows. It's just the intuitive thing that you're used to as a computer user with closing windows is Command W, and so you just hit Command W to close the plugin windows.
Yep, that's great. So yeah, maybe we've covered that one. You want to move on? What do you think, Ben? You want to move on to?
I can throw more that would be cool to show. Just
sure.
So if we go back to the timeline, the way that we've separated out the ability to tab to transient and then navigate to clip boundaries. If you click into the kick track, this would be a good example, and then zoom in, just focus it in on just a selection. Yeah, any one of those. The kick one is great because it has clip separations. If you start pressing tab here, you're of course going to go from transient to transient. But then if you use the L and apostrophe keys, you're going to go from clip to clip. So instead of about a mode, you can use either side of the keyboard to do the fine grain adjustment or the large grain adjustment to, transient. So like almost like word, sentence, if you think about it from like a, sort of compositional standpoint. It lets you navigate around with the cursor really quickly. And then Control and Option and use L and apostrophe. So Control, Option, L and apostrophe. That goes from marker to marker.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I showed that a couple minutes ago, and that was like, you might have been on the chat there, Connor, but that I was just thinking how intuitive that was, where tab and Option tab to go backwards, and then that L and apostrophe. And then when you add in the modifier, you're in the marker. So it's a very similar muscle memory, that for a similar task. That's super smart.
Yeah.
Hey, can I throw something in there? Because that's awesome. I didn't know about that one. But with the shift workflows, what you've got there is the ability to just go straight to the start of a mid, late, or a chorus, make a chop across every track, and then quite easily kind of like insert time at that location. So if you were making arrangements based off your markers where you've got them on bar 1, beat 1.
Yeah, so I just did that. I just used the tracks marker to make the selection, and then shift duplicate does everybody, including all my rulers, forward, right? So that's a great, just to undo that real quick so everybody sees that. So that was a make a selection and maybe shift click to refine that selection using left and right arrows to refine it once I've got it where I want it. Shift D is like that sort of shuffle workflow that we might be familiar with. So all very fast and without going to menus and without kind of, all intuitive muscle memory gestures you're probably used to.
Nice.
Yeah, I think with the ability to skip through markers on, like if you're doing a grid-based production, like quite a lot of pop music, to just be able to go straight to the chorus and double it like immediately without really leaving the keyboard. That's rapid.
Yeah,
so
it's
awesome,
really
that was like when I back when I was doing a lot of like just little 3 to 5 hour tracking sessions where the artists are trying to do as much as possible as quickly as possible. Being fast on the key commands and being able to quickly do try out arrangement ideas and stuff like that is it's essential.
Yeah, for sure.
Did we do version shortcuts just because I was on the chat?
Yeah, you know, I figured we would do I figured we'd save comping and versions for its own little segment. I would have think maybe rather than trying to put that in here. What do you think, Ben?
Yeah, I think I've seen so many requests for a comping workflow thing. Let's do that one in our next office hour. So we've got, just so everybody that's watching knows, we're doing as many of these office hours as you guys will show up to watch. So this afternoon, we've got another one coming up at, I believe, 2:00 PST. So in that one, we'll cover comping. We'll keep on diving into some of the editing features and availabilities that are inside Luna. And then at 4:30 PST, we've got the one and only Fab Dupont is showing up with a full mix session. And he's also going to show us how Luna allows you to take a full mix and then still add production elements, still get in there with a near zero latency and swap out drums or add other overdubs to it. So there's no shortage of cool things to be showing you guys. We want to make sure. I think it'd probably be a good time right now to kind of check in on the chat, and I know there's been some recurring questions kind of coming up. So let me just stop your share there so we can
sure.
hear in. So Matt, what are you hearing from the chat? What's kind of number one with a bullet? What how can we help the most people possible right now?
I'm seeing a lot of questions about how to set pre-roll, just to set up a simple count-in.
Nice. Well, that's a really easy one here. I can share my screen and show how quick and easy that is. So setting a pre-roll, so I've got my session open here. Let's say I wanted to overdub if I wanted to overdub this 2 bars of bass, the quickest way to do this, it takes 2 seconds, is to hold Option and come up here to the timeline and click. So now my pre-roll is set for 1 bar, and then it'll punch in the bass right here on bar 13.
What's cool is you can actually do that on the timeline as well.
Yeah.
Like if you go back 2 bars to bar 11, but do it on that same track.
Yeah, no need to go to the ruler.
You got to hold down the Option key, but you click earlier and it will extend that selection. There you go.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
So you don't have to go up to the timeline, or you don't have to go up to the ruler. So you can just.
Yeah. What's cool about the ruler on the bar beats roller is if you go to that like darker blue line at the beginning of the pre-roll on the actual thing, you can actually now trim it. So there's a couple of ways to kind of get in there, both graphically, like we were talking about yesterday. There's usually handles for things, and then we're showing exactly what you said, the key command, and then you're going to the next way that we can do it,
which is up here in the workflow. The way that this is something that as soon as you guys showed me this workflow settings up here, I was just like, I've been waiting for an app to have something like this, where what you need is command wise is right at your fingertips, depending on what stage of the record making process you're in. So in record, what matters most when you're recording? Pre-roll, post-roll, making sure that you have ARM turned on, and then being able to control your click tracks, and whether you're hearing it through your monitor or sending your click out to the cues. It also allows you to control just what is being sent to your cues in general. And then like Connor and we've showed this a couple times in a few of the other sessions, but all these different workflows offer exactly the commands that you are most likely to need at that point in time. And in the spirit of keyboard shortcuts, now that I have this pre-roll, let's say I completed my punch-in, now I just want to hear what I did. I don't really want to hear 2 bars beforehand. You can just go Command K, turns off the pre-roll and post-roll. Just like that.
Yeah, that's great, Ben. And just to add, you can also add post-roll the same way, right? Just hold down the Option key, click after the selection.
That's right.
Yep,
and it's important to note that, post-roll, if you're familiar with how it works, won't work if loop record or playback is turned on. So that would be something to turn off if you wanted to sort of hear beyond the initial selection. So
because otherwise it's going to pre-roll into it and then loop back.
Exactly.
And also a great thing about loop recording that we saw yesterday, I think on your demo, Connor, was that you can automatically create versions. And Luna will just intuitively know, great, you're in loop mode, you're recording something. All right, when I loop back, rather than you losing access to those files, it just starts stacking up takes inside of your versions.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So the V1 is the sort of current state of the track, and any recording that gets replaced over will get pushed in as a take. So it's a really nice way to keep track of every pass that you did of a loop without having to splay everything out all at once, or dive through a bunch of different playlists that are sort of renamed. It doesn't change the track name. It just gives you a nice quick way to access whatever those were.
Yeah, Connor, to be clear there, you're talking that anything that's done in loop record is designated by the T, and then anything that you manually create is designated by the V.
That's right.
Gotcha. Cool.
Smart little touch right there.
Yeah, that's super clever.
Nice. What else they saying, Matt?
I'm seeing a lot of questions about control surface support and if that's planned.
Definitely something we're looking at. We had to make a couple of hard decisions along the way about what we could fit into the time frame, but we know that that's something we need to do. So don't have a sense for exactly when and what, but another good reason to use the feedback button inside of Luna. Tell us what control surface you're using and what you'd like it to work with. We know that people have, artist series stuff. They've got Huey based stuff. In the meantime, there are things like we were talking about yesterday where, you can put an iPad app sort of paired with your Mac and have a second screen, and it does give you the ability to spawn a second window. Luna gives you this ability, and so you can put a screen on there and have a touch surface. But definitely, the actual hardware control surfaces that'll come later.
Yeah. And again, just to reiterate, I kind of pulled it up while you were speaking that there, Lev, but inside Luna, guys, up at the top right, there's a feedback button. And Lev and Connor, I'm sure, used to seeing hundreds of these coming in from me nonstop.
Me too.
Right? But this is a great way if there's like control services you want to see support for, if there's features that you need for your workflow. This is the best way to let us know about those sorts of things. And we're constantly, this goes straight into a database that allows us to really see what the hot button issues are and what you guys want to see next out of Luna. So highly encourage you guys to fill out the feedback. Just give a quick little description of what you want, or if you're experiencing something you're unsure of workflow wise, just get in here, describe it. You can attach files, screenshots, or short little screen captures, and then if these are optional if you want to include your name or email. We won't promise that we're gonna reach back out, but it is good to know where these things are coming from. So yeah, just always feel free to jump in and give us some feedback on Luna.
And to go back to what Lev said a minute ago, it's generally speaking, if most other workstations do it, Luna likely will at some point. I mean, that doesn't mean you shouldn't still submit it as feedback, but just know that if things aren't left out because we don't know that they need to be there, it's more of a just a time thing and all that jazz. So anything that's all the basics, it's a long range plan for Luna.
Mm-hmm. I also want to say thanks, to anybody watching that's already submitted feedback. Like we've literally gotten hundreds of individual tickets in less than 24 hours. So thank you guys for the feedback. We're going through it now. And like Drew said, we have big plans for Luna, and this feedback mechanism is going to help us prioritize. In our software making world, this is kind of what it's all about. We can do all sorts of amazing things, but we can't do it all at once. So be patient with us, but we definitely want to get the most needed things into the app as soon as we can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just also wanted to point out for anyone that's kind of just getting started in the app, obviously these office hours are here for your help and support, but that's not the only thing that we have available. If you haven't already watched these yet, or you're going to recognize Matt's voice is all over these the Luna Basics series of videos. So you can access these right inside the app on the Create page. So when you open up the app, you're going to be greeted with 4 wonderful tutorials that kind of get you started and some of the basics that you need to know to really get working inside of Luna. And the cool thing about these is they're also available over on YouTube, obviously, but this is a great source for just getting up and running inside the app nice and quickly.
Yeah, and that's going to be a running series of videos. So if there's anything that you guys want to see in particular, let us know. We'll definitely address it in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yep, just leave us comments, subscribe, like. But seriously, do let us know what you guys are enjoying out of those and what you want to see next. And we're gonna continue to be creating more and more of those on top of doing all these really cool live streams. Great. What other comments are we getting in there? How else can we help?
A popular one is 2-window workflow.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. No, go ahead, Tom.
We're both on it.
Yep.
2-window workflow. Nice. Does anybody have 2 monitors, or am I the only one? I guess Zoom probably doesn't really enjoy it.
Yeah, you can just resize the windows and kind of show that there's 2.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
There's a quick key, which is Shift Command equals. It creates a new alternate window, and it automatically appears with the non-focused type. So if you're currently in the mixer and you use the key command, it'll show you a timeline and vice versa. Nice. And these can, of course, position on multiple displays.
That's really cool. Yeah. So this was my main one. You'll notice there's one difference between the alternate and the non-alternate windows, and that is the main session window has just minimize and maximize, whereas the alternate also has a close. So you can always close it out when you need to. But yeah, let me just do that because it happened really fast.
There's also the diamond on the main window, and there's not on the alternate.
Nice.
Another little
only one place to get to your setup stuff.
Yep. To get technical about that part of it, the idea around the alternate windows is that they are sort of persistent in your environment. So unlike some environments where they get saved in a session file and you can open and it's like going to just populate your screen with all kinds of windows that you're not familiar with or didn't intend to have, or if you open someone else's session that doesn't have multiple windows and you want it to, these windows actually stay with your configuration. So if you have a multiple display setup that's like left side mixer, right side timeline, or however you have it set up, once you configure it that way, all sessions will open that way.
Oh, that's nice.
That's really cool. And then of course you can get in here and customize it. So, if I can hide the tracks and the monitor from this one and really focus it just on the mixer, or, if I wanted to keep that one like that, I could come over here and, have nothing but my timeline available. The customization of these and the fact that it's persistent for your setup is incredible.
Yeah, the fact that you can have two timeline windows and have one that's kind of looking at everything and then have one that's just focused on the most important track at the time, like your vocal or your bass in this case. That's something that's actually fairly unique.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it's really powerful. Even doing it on a single monitor like you're doing is totally doable. And yeah, it's
super useful.
It's up to you how you want to configure the interface. As Ben's showing you, it's actually highly configurable. With regards to everything that Drew showed with zooming in and out, resizing tracks, and now we're getting into these window management components that are pretty mind-blowing when you really get into how they work and how you can manipulate it.
Yeah, they're like two completely separate. The way Ben's working that, he's got like two completely separate versions of the same window.
Yeah, and he's hiding things on one because he only wants to see certain things on the right-hand side, but he's got the full session on the left.
Yeah,
these are just a couple of examples of the real power of what we've done here.
You could have just like all vocals and all drums and just tab between really condensed windows. Because I know some mix engineers that actually, they get like 100 track sessions, they have their assistants prep it down to 24 or 48 just so they can fit it on one screen. But ultimately you could just kind of go, compartmentalize and have 4 windows. That's super rad, especially if you've got assistants that are prepping everything for you. They can all make it color coded too.
Yeah, that's awesome. And if Ben, if you take one and put one window on top of the other, and then use Command tilde, that's the button right underneath the escape key, this will toggle between the windows. So easy enough to, even if you had multiple windows here and only one screen, to very simply go between the windows, as opposed to Command equals, which will inside the window toggle the view between the timeline and the mixer, right? So when you realize it's kind of the opposite key command in terms of where the keys are laid out on the keyboard, you're going to have kind of it's actually really fast to go between these two.
And is there a limit to that, Lev? Is there a limit to the number you can have?
That's a great question. I actually don't know. Connor might know.
There is not currently a limit to the number of windows you can have.
Interesting.
So go nuts until you should stop.
I was like my machine's handling a lot of things right now, and on top of that,
don't push it, Ben. Don't push it.
Go crazy till you got to hit the feedback button.
Yeah, exactly. The only problem
there's some other stuff I thought that might be. Sorry, Lev. It'd be cool to show the view panel in the mixer. Actually, we've not really talked about that in any of the sessions just yet. Like the ability to show and hide everything in your mixer views. So I think that's really powerful as well, from like a cleanness of mind.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, here I'm just kind of showing and hiding. So in this, I'm over here on the left-hand side. So this allows me, the dot next to it allows you to show or hide different elements of the mixer. So this is super helpful especially when you're in the tracking stage. When you're tracking, you don't need to worry about the tape machine. You probably just want the inputs, maybe the inserts, sends, and cues. Because output, I'm just going to use the main out, and for tracking purposes, that probably doesn't matter quite so much. But then when you switch over to mixing mode, all right, now I no longer need the cues, but I want to see tape, inserts, sends, and outputs. So now I'm in a mixing configuration, and the cues no longer matter to me. But as you'll notice down here, there's also options to expand the view for all of these. So you can get larger thumbnails, you get all of the tape controls automatically show, and then you can also click small to kind of condense that. And you can do the same thing here with the mixer. You can, if you want to get the faders kind of out of the way and have more room for working on your inserts and sends. The configurability that you have is really cool.
And I think it's worth noting, Ben, that you've got this Luna's really like, it's styled and the GUI is really great for high resolution monitors, right? It lives really well on big screens, which is awesome compared to some other, workstations that everything's getting kind of puny on these big screens. We're really kind of like, this is built for the future of high res displays,
Mm-hmm.
Some other great things you can do. Like if you show the cues, I think that would be the last little example. And if you hit the open button, you'll see that, you click on the buttons just to the left of the fader. There you go, that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Gives you another example, exactly what Drew's talking about, where you've got like the ability to see a very large fader, whereas maybe in other systems you're getting like a very tiny fader to actually mix into reverb or mix into a headphone.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of resolution here if you blow that up. The last thing I think that's really notable, Ben, if you go back to that little navigator on the top left and you command click on the name of any one thing, it's just going to focus that one thing. So it's a really nice way to kind of solo a view, and not have to sort of unhide other things to do it.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
that's the one I love. Yeah, it's wicked. Also, with the inserts, you've got if you load UAD plugin, you can see the UI as well, which I think is great because, I mean, how many times have you, all of us, 20 years scrolling through sessions, just trying to read the little name on the plugin? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But now you just see the blue API.
Well, and even on AU plugins, Luna has the ability to make a custom icon for third-party AUs. If you hit that, if you load one of those, Ben, and you hit that up there in the name, and you hit make custom icon, right there, make custom icon, and there you got that one too.
Oh, that's cool gnarly. Feature. That's a great feature. Wow.
Yeah,
dude.
Yeah, that one's. Oh. Yep. Now you have your third-party AUs icons in there.
Sorry guys, I can't help on the rest of this office hour. I'm busy.
Was that a new one? Was that a new one, Ben?
That was a new one.
Ben's face on every insert.
Yeah.
Oh. Gotta pay extra for that.
You can even go into the Mac and find those little thumbnails that we create. They're actually on disk, and you can edit them if you want. So
I'm going to put Ben's face on every insert.
You shouldn't have said that, Lev.
You can do it for console too.
I want to see some
tomorrow's live stream.
I want to see some emojis in people's sessions. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, guys, this is great. I saw a comment coming through on there's a lot of questions. We talked a bunch about the pre-roll, but people are kind of wondering about count-in. Just want to clear that up for everybody. So pre-roll, as I understand it, this is basically how we handle counting in Luna, right?
Yeah, for now. That's another feature request that we've definitely seen a couple times in the last day. So certainly something we could look into adding.
Nice. Yeah, and I think the only issue with that is that if you want your song to start on bar 1, then you need the count off in front of that. But I don't know about you guys, but in all the years I've been working, I've never felt comfortable starting the song at the beginning of the timeline anyway. So the count in is always the first 4 bars, first 8 bars are the count in anyway. But that's just me.
I agree. Well, let's show the people how. Let's say that you did have your session starting at bar 1, like you've got here. If you use the all tracks ruler and go ahead and use the all tracks ruler and select like 4 bars. Let's see. I don't think you got in there quite right. Just go ahead.
I was one off.
There you
go. So you've got 4 bars, and then you hit Shift I, and that's going to insert time for the amount of bars you've got. Now you've just pushed the entire session out, and so now you've got that buffer that Drew was just talking about. So there's ways that even if you've already started on bar 1, beat 1, and you want to add a little pre-roll or count in as this workaround that we've just described would be, then this is a way to do it.
Nice.
And you can actually, now that you moved it over, you can actually set bar 5 as bar 1, right? So it starts counting.
That's true.
There.
So there is a way to redefine bars. It's typically used for when we're doing an analyzation of audio, like Connor was showing, basically redefining the grid. And having negative bars is a really important part of that workflow. But definitely, if you wanted that sort of counter to be on bar 1, as it were, it's definitely a way to do it.
Nice.
I think that's awesome because you want a bit of silence, arguably up front, because even old CD players need like 300 milliseconds or something.
Yeah, you definitely don't want that first transient starting right on the beginning of the timeline.
Yeah, this is some seasoned pro best practice stuff. I love it. This is great.
Yeah.
Pro tips.
Boom.
Nice. Killer. Well, I think we got time for maybe like one more question coming out of the chat. Got anything queued up for us, Matt?
I'm seeing a couple people just with some confusion about exactly which Apollos are compatible, especially like the silver models with a Thunderbolt card.
Mm-hmm.
Want to touch on that?
Yeah, I can take that one. Yeah, like you said, going all the way back to the first Apollo, and this is like 2012 if you're keeping score at home. That unit had a Thunderbolt slot in it, so you could put any of our Thunderbolt 1, Thunderbolt 2, or Thunderbolt 3 option cards in it, which are sold separately, and take that device and make it work. Now, unfortunately, we won't have support for the FireWire devices in terms of connecting to the computer via FireWire, but any device that we have that has a Thunderbolt port, as long as you've got a Mac, you can connect that all up and it will work with Luna. So that's the first generation silvers. There were 3 models of that, with the Duo, the Quad, and the 16. We had the second generation Apollos, the black faced as we call them. So you had 4 models there. Every model of twin. So we had 3 generations of that. Again, it's a long list. Things like Arrow as well, the newest X series things, everything that's got Thunderbolt. So it's really just everything we've ever made with Thunderbolt works. It's the simplest way to put it.
Nice.
And yeah.
And I saw a few people chime in on chat. Kind of, obviously we're now Mojave and we're now fully Catalina compatible. People are curious about High Sierra. There's reports of people getting Luna set up and it's working in High Sierra, but is there anything that they should know about trying to use it?
Yeah, generally speaking, anytime that we're building a new product, we sort of have to limit our test grids because, especially for something like Luna, it's a massive test grid, massive undertaking.
Mm-hmm.
But, we did start the development of Luna back in the High Sierra days, even before that. But from just a test grid perspective, a compatibility, what we can actually support as a company, we say that, Sierra is not supported. Doesn't mean it won't function, but there might be unintended consequences. So my recommendation would, of course, be if you're comfortable moving up to at least one version up to Mojave, because that's where we've got the most coverage and we kind of know, what happens there. But yeah, we don't block it from working on an older OS, but your mileage may vary. I said violage, by the way.
Mileage may vary.
Yeah, exactly. I can wonder my gerbs, jumble my words. So yeah. But yeah, I think that's from an official standpoint, we say that it's not supported, but if you're in a place where you can't upgrade right now, you still might be able to check it out. But I do recommend for any serious projects getting onto a supported OS because you'll have a better experience.
Lev, how about video support? That one's coming up a bunch as well.
Yeah, another feature for the future, I think. We don't have any support for it at the moment, but I've definitely seen those same comments coming in. So again, add that feedback using the feedback button. Let us know how bad you need that feature.
Yeah, it's one thing to hit us up in the live chat with ideas and feature requests like this, but the feedback one that's the number one way for us to weigh how requested all these features are.
That'd be great. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Well, great guys. Well, this was another wonderful office hour, and as much as we could go on for hours and hours, there's still so much of this app that we haven't even touched on in any of our office hours. But it's great that we're able to hang out with you guys, all of you people at home. Keep on coming back, and we will continue to show you guys more and more info. I think in the next one, we're going to definitely be hitting some vocal comping and kind of showing you some of those editing features, as well as we'll probably get back into some more instrument stuff as well. So feel free to tune back in. We should be back here in just about 2 hours from now. And then, like I mentioned, we'll be back again at 4:30, which is like 4.5 hours from now, with a really awesome mix session with Fab DuPont. So thanks for tuning in, and thank you guys for all of your help and expertise here. This is it's great to share the knowledge and share the inspiration and working inside of Luna.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
See you guys
in the
later.
next one.
See you next time.